Everything all right?
Yeah, she just.
Make sure. Yes, sir. Okay. 6 o'clock, call the July 26th, 2021 meeting to order. Ask clerk to take roll.
Walters.
Here.
Vogel. Here. Anderson.
Here.
Sarchet.
Here. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I have no additions or corrections. I take a motion, please.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Sarchet.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Vogel. Yes. Anderson.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item, swear-in ceremony for our newest police officer, Jeremy Burdess. Chief, floor is yours.
Good evening. All right, I'd like to introduce you to Jeremy Burdess. He's our newest officer and will be taking a full-time position. Comes to us with 10 years law enforcement experience between West Liberty Police Department and Jasper County Sheriff's Office. You want to go ahead and step up? We'll do the swearing here. Just all right, go ahead and raise your right hand. I, and state your name,
I, Jeremy Burdess,
do solemnly swear that I will support
do solemnly swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
the Constitution of the State of Iowa.
and I will faithfully and impartially,
I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties
discharge all of the duties
of a police officer for the City of Polk City,
of police officer for the City of Polk City,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter required by law.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, as you can tell, we don't venture too far from first names to the department.
Wow.
Like to be sure it's easy to remember.
One is his and one is his and one is mine.
Okay.
Stay away from that one.
Welcome to Polk City.
Thank you.
Forward to seeing you around. Thanks, guys.
Expect you to be delivering babies within a couple weeks here.
It's always been a dream, but I've always been great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, nice to meet you.
Welcome.
It's time to close the regular meeting and open the public hearing on the proposal to use low to moderate funds for first choice renovations. Any comments for or against the proposal?
No, sir.
This time I'd ask staff to provide a report.
The city is looking to partner with First Choice Renovations for his project at 117 East Broadway. The total contribution needed from the city for this project is $388,000, which would be given directly to the developer. The city is proposing entering into a forgivable loan with the eligible property owners for 100% forgiveness over a 5-year period, or $97,000 per home. If the property owners sell the property prior to the 5 years, they would be responsible for paying back the loan based on a 5-year sliding scale. Property owners will be required to meet LMI requirements as defined by Polk County. So basically how we have structured this would be that the city will pay the developer directly with LMI funds, and the payment will be forgivable to those property owners that meet the LMI requirements and live in the house a minimum of 5 years. So the promissory notes will be between the city and the purchasers.
With the first one being with the original property owner with First Choice Renovations, so that we have that first position, and then we would subordinate our mortgage to the lender, the construction mortgage. We'll make sure that everything's in place to protect the city on that.
Questions? Is there anyone on the phone or in person here who wish to be heard for or against the proposal? Hearing none or seeing none, I need a motion to close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Vogel?
Yeah.
Anderson?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item, Resolution 2021-72, approving the use of low to moderate income funds for first choice renovations development project. Need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Vogel?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item, authorize acceptance of applications. Motion, please.
Second.
Questions?
So is this the one, right? We have one to your earlier point.
Yeah, we don't have any applications yet for the ultimate property owner. We've got the developer, and the loan will originally be made to the developer to facilitate the construction. And
Okay.
then we'll be accepting applications for the ultimate property owner.
So we have to do this again.
No, this takes care of the process that we will, from the construction through the ultimate purchase by the LMI eligible purchaser.
Okay. So I don't have a problem with any of this. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
I'm understanding procedurally how it goes. We're authorizing the acceptance and the future acceptances.
You're authorizing the acceptance of applications and the process, yes. So generally, once an LMI applicant has submitted an application, the staff will determine whether they meet the LMI requirements. And if so, then that property will be sold by first choice to that property owner. And we'll make sure the paperwork is in place. This authorizes that process.
Okay.
We don't anticipate, I didn't anticipate that you would bring each applicant back before the council for approval. I thought that would probably be a staff decision, given the fact that you're establishing the LMI requirements.
Yeah, I wasn't asking. I would concur with your.
Yeah.
I just again wanted to be sure and just to make maybe some macro level appointments on all of this. On the last one here, for anybody who's paying attention, and I think East Broadway and the work that's being done here is for the limited uses that we have for LMI funds and our historical approach to accumulating that money, which we've changed going forward. This is a perfect project. So I'm good with all of that and excited about some of the changes that have already been made down there by related parties, and this one too. So I, again, don't infer any quibbles or anything with my questions, just trying to make sure what it is and really, again, excited about the use of these funds that we've been sitting on for a while, and it's a good problem to have with limited uses for LMI funds, but yeah.
Thank you, Amy.
Roll call, please.
Walters?
Yes.
Vogel?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item for public comments. Time and place for comments for any item other than those in a public hearing. Wish to speak, please come to the podium. Or is anybody on the phone that wishes to? Great. Moving on. Consent agenda. Take a motion, please.
So moved.
Questions? I need a second. Sorry. How about a second? There you go. Now questions. Okay.
No questions for me, but there are a couple things I want to point out. I want to thank staff for the facility needs assessment and getting that on there. I think having a 30-year plan for facilities was a great exercise to go through. You know, however we end up acting on that plan, we'll figure out. But having a plan is important. Also, the contract with Lewis and Lawn. I think this was another good example of listening to feedback, and it's easy because a lot of it came from my neighborhood, but my understanding was that this project with them on the compost is one of the larger ones around in the metro, and so it's kind of good to be on the cutting edge of some of that stuff, and looking for ways to limit water usage, make people's lawns greener and all that stuff. It's just a good, I mean, there's no downside there, especially when you get the grant that we did. And then finally, the new firefighter, appreciate your work in that regard. There was just a couple of stories about the challenging environment that it is in for us and everybody else. Emergency services related to the fact that we're hiring an officer and the fact that we're bringing in another firefighter EMT is a testament to both of your guys' good work. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Walters?
Yes.
Vogel?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item, business item, item A, resolution 2021-73, awarding sale of general obligation corporate purpose and refunding bonds. Series 2021 and authorizing redemption of general obligation capital loan notes, series 2014. Floor is yours.
All right. This morning at 10 o'clock, the city received bids on $3,002,000 allocation, corporate purpose and refunding bond series 2021. The city received 5 bids. There were 28 banks that participated in the syndicate on some of the bids. The low bid was from Robert W. Baird, Polk, Wisconsin. They bid 1.4583%. Cover bid came from Northland at 1.4651. Part of this bond issue was a refunding of the 2014 bonds, and so based on the bids today, the city will save $81,715 by just literally paying off the old bonds, a portion of these new bonds. So that's about 8.42%. We try to target about 3%. So obviously very good savings there. So that should, in a very small way, not small, by about 10 to 15,000 a year, it should help relieve the pressure on the sewer. That's so. The 2 projects that were identified primarily were the intersection projects and some of the water improvements, and so the city's got a lot of flexibility with the purpose language for essential purposes. So, the city's got some plans to borrow for some projects in the future, and some of these bond proceeds to offset those costs in the future. And I think locking in today's rates is a good move. That the sense is the economy opens back up and things get going, inflation becomes a real thing. That start increasing interest rates, and we'll see that in bond financing. So I'll stop there, see if there's any questions about the bond sale today. No questions. We would make a formal recommendation to award the $3,115,000 general obligation corporate purpose and refunding bond series 2021A to Robert W. Baird out of Washington.
Looking for a motion to do that.
So moved.
Second?
Questions?
While you're here, good to see you in person again. Although every time you come, there's usually a decent amount of debt that comes with you. So, but going back to the plan that we had for water and sewer, I know sewer goes back a little bit farther, but nothing has changed demonstrably from what was in there to so this is a less specific question about what we're talking about, more higher level.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a water perspective, have a really dry year, have a bunch of sales, your results year to year impact. You've got a lot of water projects kind of in the pipeline, potentially need to be made. Regional water is still a thing. There's still people talking about what happens if it regionalizes and what does that look like. So from a water perspective, I think your rates kind of tie to somewhat your capital improvement plan and how you finance that, cash and or debt, and then also what happens with regionalization, what happens with one water works rates. We got 15% rate increases from one water works for that. You guys still buy at least half of your water. On a sewer perspective, you know, it's really the Rock Creek improvement. It's a $17 million improvement. You've got a $560,000 payment to the county every year. You know, the WRA is still $5 million cap and issuing more debt, and they will continue to issue debt to do that. So, but it's really the Rock Creek improvements that are driving the sewer for the sewer. So I would say holistically, no, but in terms of when you get the details, and that's where I live, is like the difference between a 6% rate increase and 5.25% increase. And I think from a policy perspective, how you guys manage the irrigation rate is something that I think will continue to get a lot of attention because you've made a pretty big policy change on terms of trying to affect behavior. And I'll tell you, you're one of the few communities that I didn't see a peak from earlier this summer. I mean, Norwalk, Waukee, a bunch of those communities set a new record. Thank you. I didn't see that guys' stuff, and so I think people are managing their irrigation differently than they probably would have not done. So, but I think we'll continue to talk about those things once or twice a year.
Yeah.
You know, Chelsea and I will talk about it more frequently, but then bring our staff recommendation council once or twice a year as part of the kind of the retainer work that we do. And you guys change policy decisions because you typically do a rate increase once a year.
Yeah.
In line with your budget. So.
And that's where I was going on more of the project side of things. You alluded to super low rates and been saying that for a while, but you really can't get much lower.
Yeah, I mean the water tower is a big thing
Yeah.
hanging out there from that project. Less than that. I know there's a few other building water towers right now and still not going down in price, and so how those bids are. So it's really the water tower project that is one of the big. I mean, we had some CIP type well improvements built in here for this bond issue. There's changes, just the schedule, but that wasn't really driving. It was really being in a position to fund water. And so if that gets delayed, it gets pulled forward, it changes in cost materially. That probably the biggest changes of rate recognition. And then if Des Moines diverges from what we have assumed.
Yeah. Well, no, again, I really appreciate you guys' counsel and PFM as a whole. If we could see something, I would be curious to, you alluded to the impact of our irrigation water increases, and even if it's a little speculative on what that might have looked like without the big increase that we have. But if it is paying dividends on those peak days, it'd be good to quantify that to the extent we can.
Yeah, we'd have to kind of guess on what so hard thing to do. I mean, we just have to make some assumptions, lay it out, and say if you would have peaked 15% higher than you did, it would cost you an additional $8,000 or $100,000 or something. If, and really, we don't like to, you know, until the summer's over.
Yeah.
And we're through the peak seasons. You know, September is really depending on how the weather is, but typically after September, not gonna probably peak into October, November, and so kind of that time frame is kind of when you can start to look at how did you peak this year versus how you peaked in the past. We can provide a full.
Yeah, and it would be anecdotal. I know it's not, you know, what cause did the rate have? What cause did our communication have? The year is a little bit different. It's dry. You know, it's like 2 years ago when we did set the record, or was that last year? I can't even straight. But nonetheless, the fact that we did with more people and therefore more meters and just as much need for water didn't set records on, or didn't set new peak days. I think that's true, right? Yeah, I mean, there's proofs in the pudding there, how much that caused and, you know, what portion, again, was the rate and the communication, all that stuff is
Yeah.
to be debated, but
Yeah, you guys have irrigation meters, so you can isolate the irrigation meter usage and try to see. I mean, we can look at every single meter and see over the last 3 years how their water
Yeah.
change and how, you know, did anybody notably change behavior? For communities that don't have irrigation meters, like COVID has kind of, you know, commercial properties have water differently, we're working for water differently, so there's some noise as you get into the COVID era or whatever. It's like Urbandale and West have seen different things than points. And so, but yeah, we can, I mean, if you have specific questions, you can share with Chelsea. It's kind of, hey, I'm looking for, you know, X, Y, or Z, and we can try to step.
yeah, no, she's got it, and I know I'm asking questions that there's not gonna be a definitive number associated with, but I just think it's a good conversation to have. Talking to Ron earlier, and this is another piece in between the meetings here that just feel so much more comfortable where we're at now, and that's a testament to Chelsea and Mike and you, all of it, everybody at staff, because just, you know, blind squirrel looking for a nut a couple of years ago, and I don't feel that way. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Vogel? Yes. Anderson?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item, resolution 2021-75, approving pay application number 4, which is the final retained fees for the 2021 street repairs project, amount of $6,671.29. Anybody want to report on this or take a motion?
This is just the retainage release. 30 days ago, you would have accepted the public improvements. We had the sales tax forms, everything's in order to give them the rest of their money.
Beautiful. Need a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Anderson?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Vogel? Yes.
Motion carries. Next item, reports and particulars. Thank you for filling in
I
and
didn't mess up too much, Leslie,
driving
but
the
thank you for
ship
coming
last
back.
week. Or 2 weeks ago. Appreciate you
Survived.
driving the ship. No, good job. I heard nothing but positive comments. So, no, good job out of you. So, staff, have anything?
We set up a water station out front of the PD for the next 3 days for sure. That'll just be
Nice job.
very, set.
Are you getting some use on it?
We actually have
Yeah.
today. Put it right out some windows so I can watch it as well. So no issues though.
I'll piggyback on that, and since Jason's not here, he does have the community center open for cooling stations from 8 to 5 until the excessive heat warning goes away.
I wanted to just publicly thank, first of all, my board for Mini Fest. Thanks for getting that thrown together in less than 95 days. Specifically, I wanted to call out Jeremy. Thanks for his help ahead of that, and then also the day of. Mike, 3 of your staff, Danae, Ben, and Dennis, for coming down and helping. And of course, Jim, Jamie, and Jason not here, but volunteered and was there. Very much appreciated.
Chief, have anything?
I don't.
Mike? Anybody on the pier have anything?
I'll piggyback on the Mini Fest comment. Thanks to everybody involved. And I think the library ring toss is like the driver for my kids. They were not going to miss that for the world. And, you know, we thought about biking up here, but I'm like, by the time they get all those, 2 liters, and they were going to play till they won. So thank you to Jamie, to the staff, the volunteers that staffed the ring toss. So that's a favorite. But no, thanks to everybody that, put together a great event. I know when you started planning, a lot was up in the air, and it's kind of still crazy times, but I thought it was still a great event, and I look forward to hopefully a little less challenges to overcome next year when planning. And then I didn't make comments throughout, but
you know, again, we've got a lot of, I guess, great things here. When you look at the facilities needs assessment, you know, we know we're out of space. We're putting a plan in place. When you look at our partner in PFM and some of these challenging things we got to figure out how to pay for. Kyle, for the work you've done in revitalizing some of that old part of town. And, you know, we've been trying to find the right way to spend some of our LMI funds. So thank you for your efforts that you've taken without the use of those funds, but then also helping us find a valuable way to use those funds. So, yeah, thanks everybody for all you do.
Anybody? You have any?
No.
Okay. With that, Mr. Anderson,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.